Hello, I'm Jay, owner of Volunteer Audio in Oliver Springs, Tennessee. I'm making a quick video to go over our 3 most popular amps that are available in our plug-and-play packages. Hang out as I go over wattage specs, dyno results, and go over why Volunteer Audio has picked these 3 amps to be what we offer you. All right, so let's talk first about our most popular amp. This amplifier is riding around the US in thousands of Harley Davidsons. It has not got a huge wattage number. Hertz built a very clean, very efficient amplifier, and we felt like efficiency was more important than hunting out the biggest amp we could get. This amp is IPX rated, meaning it is waterproof. You're not ever gonna have water issues in the rain. It pulls less than 20 amps of current. That's a really big deal. We've got 60 to 70 usable amps of current on a bike before you have to start doing things like lithium batteries and bigger stators. And sometimes we're running multiples of these on a bike, so we want to make sure it was an efficient amp. Also, throughout the years of using this, and we've used this amp since somewhere around 2014, 2015, our failure rate has been extremely low at a time when many other amps on the market had very high failure rates. So even though they might have had more power, they also had more distortion and they had more times that it failed. And as anybody knows, if your amplifier fails and it quits working, the experience is not going to be nearly as good as having a quality product that lasts for years and years. All right, so this amplifier was actually rated at 60 watts by 4 at 4 ohm and 75 by 4 at 2 ohm. And we felt it's more important to find an amazing speaker that's very efficient and put it with a quality, long-lasting amp than chasing the biggest numbers in each department. And hundreds, if not thousands of people can attest that this amplifier on the right speakers is plenty loud to hear the audio over the engine and the wind at 85 plus miles an hour, and that's what a lot of people are going for. But as with everything, time moves on, bigger amps become available, and we found some amplifiers that actually fit our very OCD about quality and whether it be sound quality and longevity, very particular. I'm not going to sell you something that I don't believe in, that I don't think is going to last. So a couple more have come available, and I want to go over those now with you. So as you're looking on our site, you understand the differences between each one. And here in a minute, we're going to put them all on a dyno, check each amp, and give real-world numbers on them. And a video coming up next to this video, we'll take each one of these amps, we're going to hook it to the same set of speakers, and we're going to actually measure the SPL or decibels that each amp produces through the same set of speakers. That way, when this is all said and done, you can decide, is the bigger wattage going to equate to better sound, and if so, how much? I know you're going to ask me that question. Please hold out until the next video comes out, and I think we'll answer those questions in that video. All right, so the next amp that came about that we've been using a lot and we've been really happy with is made by Precision Power. It's the MAA4.400. Now this amplifier, even though 400 is in its part number, is an 800 watt amp. It's 400 RMS at 4 ohm. It's 800 peak watts. And we're going to put it on the dyno and we'll go over all that with you as far as the spec on what it does in each load. So if you don't know a lot about what I mean when I say 4 ohm or 2 ohm load, I want to explain that real quickly. If you do one set of speakers like a Hertz SX165 Neo, they are 4 ohm speakers. And when that set of speakers is on the amp, you're going to get the 4 ohm number. So if it says it does 100 watts of RMS or continuous power at 4 ohm, that's what you can expect if you put one set of speakers on that channel. Now, a lot of guys are running uppers and lowers in the front. When we put 2 sets of speakers on the same channel, it increases the load to the amplifier. We call that impedance. And to see that load, as that load increases, that ohm drops. So if you do 2 sets of 4 ohm speakers, the amp sees a 2 ohm load. This amplifier is rated at 150 watts per channel at 2 ohm. So what that means is when you add that second set of speakers, the load increases on the amp automatically puts out more power, and now we have more power to feed those 4 speakers that are now running on the front 2 channels. All right, so I just want to go over that real quick because ohms is confusing to a lot of people. But the reason we decided to bring in this Precision Power amplifier is it's a Class D amp like our HMP4D. It is available in a plug-and-play configuration, which we want to send you something very easy to install. It's also got a great warranty from Precision Power. It does have a 2-year warranty on the amplifier, which we think is great for the motorcycle world. It is not what we'd call IPX. It's not waterproof. But all the mounts and the ways it's designed to be mounted in your fairing is going to keep water off of it. All the harnessing is designed where if water got on, it's going to run down the harnessing in a way instead of down the harness and into the amplifier. So far we've installed a bunch of these that have went through major rainstorms and we've had no issues from water whatsoever. It is more of a sealed design than say Rockford Fosgate. Rockford has a fan that blows air in. This being Class D, it does not have those major holes for a fan, so a lot less likelihood to get water intrusion. And they smartly put all the holes on the ends of the amp instead of the top of the amp. A lot of the other amps out there put it on top, so if water lands on top, it runs right into the amplifier. All right, so this was a lot of things. Number one, it was very, very clean, very low distortion amplifier. Now, as we talk about wattage specs, we're talking about less than 1% distortion because that's the industry standard. CEA spec says less than 1% distortion. That wattage is what you can claim as RMS wattage. Now, that doesn't mean that this amp produces 1% distortion. That's just where the cutoff is. This could be 0.02% distortion, and we would still say less than 1%. So I don't want you to think it's a high distortion amp. Many amps on the market will not make that 1% cut. They're 10, 20% distortion. It's crazy how much distortion their amp puts out before clipping. These are only going to see above 1% at clipping. So we brought it in because it was clean, it's powerful, it's priced right, and I felt like it was a good value to offer to our customers. So instead of being 60 watts at 4 ohm, it's 100 at 4 ohm. Instead of being 75 at 2 ohm, this one produces 150 at 2 ohm. And I think you'll find out when we do our dyno results, this is way underrated. It does a lot more power than they claimed. I knew that was the case before we brought them in. I already saw the specs. And I've been really excited at how much better a system can sound by improving from the smaller amp to the bigger amp. Mainly we see that in mid-bass. So I'll give you an example. Our Hertz SX690 Neo 6x9s. They sound really good on this power. They're plenty loud to hear. But when you throw more power to them, you pick up more mid-bass. And nobody ever told me they had too much bass on their Harley. Everybody's wanting more, so it is a big improvement in fullness of sound as we pick up more mid-bass from our larger drivers like our 6x9s. Now, I'm going to move on to our next new, my favorite, and what I think is probably the best amp that's going to be available. Now, they're in super short supply. We only received 10. We've had a couple builds set aside for them because we've been testing it. I wanted to make sure we knew the specs. If you had a SoundStream radio or if you had a factory radio, we had to do all of our testing to make direct connect harnessing for it so it was plug and play, as well as know every scenario in which we need to set crossovers, filters, gains, and such for your bike. So we've got them in, we've been testing them, and so far I've been extremely impressed. So this is also from Hertz, the people that we were so in love with the HMP4D because of its quality, because of its low distortion, because of its super high efficiency. This amp takes all of that to a whole nother level. Again, IPX rated, completely sealed so water won't get in the amp. 3-year warranted. But here's where it comes down to how clean is it. It's 0.02% distortion. And I've tested it on our dyno, and I can tell you that it does not produce distortion until it clips. So I get the same results on a non-certified dyno run as I get on a certified run. And I can show you that that is a pretty amazing thing, how clean the amplifier is. And we needed that cleanliness and power because this thing's a beast. It does 160 rated watts per channel at 4 ohm. Now let's back up. This one does 60, this does 160 on the same load. This one does 75 at 2 ohm, this one does 250. We're over 3 times the power on a 2 ohm load from this amp than our older Hertz amp. So now we're really at that competition level in power. But we're also so clean that we're not blowing speakers. And we've already done a complete build. We listened to the bike for a long time. We played it very, very loud, yet undistorted. And the speakers didn't get hot. We didn't smell burnt voice coils. We're not having any issues out of it. I was a little worried about how much power will the Hertz Neo speakers handle. The SX165 Neo 6.5s are rated for 100 watts RMS power. That's max RMS. We throw 160 to them. Are they going to take it? Well, so far they're doing great. The 6x9s are rated at 135. We threw the 160 on those. No problem. They're playing wonderful. Added mid-bass, added sound quality. It's definitely an amazing improvement. The thing is, with each step up, you're going to pay more money. And this video was to tell you about the amps, but also to tell you and try to explain to you, is it worth it to you? With the HMP4D, I can get you louder than the wind or the engine at 85. At the Precision Power, we're starting to feel it as much as we're hearing it because the mid bass is so much better. Overall volume's even higher. We get into this Hertz amp. Oh, it's crazy. I was 25 foot away from a bike and I was feeling the bass in my shoe through the concrete. It is crazy how much more output we get with this amplifier. This is putting your speakers on steroids. But enough said about the amplifiers and how great the quality is, how great the clarity is. I want to show you on the dyno the real results. And again, after this video, the next video, I'm going to show you what this wattage difference equates to in sound. Because I still think the #1 most important thing is the correct speakers. And I'll go into that more depth as we get to that point. But we can pick up more sound from more efficient speakers way easier than we can spend money on more power. But once we've got the right speaker, I'm going to show you what more power does to that speaker. All right, so let's get to the dyno and look at these results. All right, so first amp on the dyno is the Hertz SP4.900. It's already connected. I've got power and ground connected over here to our power supply and our battery. I've got speaker level connected from the front to the output of the amp, and we're running low level RCA in. Now I did a test earlier. High level does produce a little more power. We saw about 10 more watts at 2 ohm when we were doing high level, and high level is what we use when we're on a Harley instead of RCA. But we're testing it with RCA right now just because it's easier to swap from amp to amp and give you an apples to apples comparison. So the dyno is set to certified dyno, which means it's only going to read signals less than 1% distortion. I've got track 9 paused. We're going to start the dyno and then see what kind of results we get. It's going to send a signal, it's going to ramp up, and it's going to give us a reading right here on screen of how much power this amp's done. All right, that wasn't bad. So our dyno is a little warm because we've been playing with it. Our batteries are actually a little low. So 14.4 volts where we should test it, we were right at 14 volts or 14.05. We got 170 watts at 4 ohm in each channel, and we got an exact result out of both channels, which is really good. Most of the time we see a pretty good variation between one channel to the next. All right, we're going to redo this test. I'm just going to go ahead and restart track 9 and pause it. We're going to back up here and do our 2 ohm test. All right, let's go back. Let's select 2 ohm instead of 4. Let's do this test again. Start dyno and play. 2 ohms, an increased load on the amplifier. We're expecting a lot more power. Wow, that's some pretty big numbers. So amplifier is rated at 250 watts RMS at 2 ohm. We actually got 287 on the front channel and 285 on the left channel was 287, right channel was 285. So together, I mean, that is a tremendous amount of power off half of an amplifier. That's at 2 ohm at less than 14 volts. So rated at 250, actually produced over 280, so 30 more watts than they claimed. When I did the high level input, I got right at 295, so roughly 10 more watts going high level. So this amplifier, I tested it earlier, and what I found out was you can do a certified dyno run and you can do it uncertified. Uncertified will allow it to play an amp with much higher distortion and still give you wattage numbers. This amplifier gave me the exact same number on either run because this amp is so low in distortion, we don't get distortion until the amp clips. And as soon as the amp clips, you don't get more power. So either run gave us the same results, which actually just verified how clean this amplifier is. 0.02% distortion. So just to back up and go over it, we got 170 per channel at 4 ohm. We got 285 and 287 at 2 ohm. Now, I'm going to do that again real quick, and I'm going to check the amperage draw because I want to show you max amperage draw. We're only checking half the amp, so we're going to double our number. We've got our amp clamp there picking it up, so I'm going to restart that last test again. I'm just going to actually just hit reset so it redoes our numbers. I'm going to unpause it, play that again, and we're going to see how much amperage we draw during that. All right, pretty amazing. So 24.26 amps. So if we were running a whole amp, we would expect roughly double that. So right at 50 amps of current to generate over 1,000, almost 1,100 watts of RMS power. Actually over that because we're 35 times 4, so somewhere around 1,150. So 1,150 watts off 50 amps of current. That is amazing, but that's that new advanced Class D, super efficient. It's 85% efficient, where most amps are going to be less than 80% efficient in the Class D range. So between, I think, the speaker simulator, which gives us clear signal from our radio, it actually simulates that a speaker is still connected even when it's not. That's through high level. It's probably why we ended up with that 10 extra watts earlier. So I'm really excited about that, the new efficiency of it, and this extreme power. I mean, it's just crazy how much power we're getting. So let's move on to our Precision Power MAA4.400. Let me get it set up and we'll be right back. All right, so we've moved on to the Precision Power MAA4.400. I've got it hooked up, power and ground to our power supply, RCA's feeding input. We've got our gain set as the dyno recommends. We also have the speaker wires from output side of the amp, front, left and right channels feeding the front. Now we're doing this 2 channels because that's the maximum we can test at one time with one dyno. And the more channels we test, actually the lower number you get. A lot of companies, they give you this number on their box. It won't be CEA spec, so it'll be super high distortion, but it's also playing one frequency and it's only playing one channel. So they get a higher number than normal. But we're going to continue to do our test as we did with the last amp, an apples to apples comparison. Certified dyno results, same radio, same volume, same track, everything done the same way so we can actually see which amp has more power. Now the rated power on this amplifier from Precision Power is 100 watts by 4 at 4 ohm, 150 by 4 at 2 ohm. So let's see how it performs. First we're going to do our 4 ohm test. So I'm going to start the dyno and I'm going to unpause it. Let's watch it ramp up, see how much power we get. All right, pretty impressive. So it's supposed to be 100 watts per channel. That's what Precision Power rates it at 14.4 volts. In reality, we're at 14 volts, 14.07, so we're a little lower in voltage, but our wattage is actually higher, 125 watts on our right speaker, 127 on our left speaker. So we're gonna always see a little bit of variation, but that's significantly more. I mean, we're talking 25 watts more than Precision Power said it would do. Now that's at the 4 ohm load. Let's see what it does on a 2 ohm load. All right, so we're ready to do our 2 ohm test. We've got it uncertified amp dyno mode, 2 ohm, volume's up on the radio, track 9's paused. We're gonna hit start and then unpause it. See what kind of power we get here. All right, not too bad. Let's see what it finishes up at. All right, so what I have realized, as the dyno gets hotter, you don't get as good of numbers out of the dyno for whatever reason. Still yet, this amp's rated at 150 at 2 ohm, and we're still getting 165 on channel 2 or right side, and 179 on the left side. Now whether it's the radio getting hot or the dyno getting hot, I'm not sure, but we're still significantly above the rated power, and that's still a ton of power. So next up is the HMP4D, so I'll get it ready. We'll show you the dyno results from it here in just a minute. All right, so I've got Old Faithful, we'll call it Old Reliable, our Hertz HMP4D on our dyno. Just want to show you the results of it so that in our next video you'll understand the wattage difference between this to that Precision Power amp and the bigger Hertz amp, and we can equate that into decibels and how much louder it is, and let you know this is loud enough. And my honest opinion is this is loud enough to have a great sounding system while riding down the road on your Harley. That's normally what people are after when they're wanting to upgrade. But then you got people like me that always want more. And that's where the next step up amplifiers come from. If you want to have that rock concert on your motorcycle, you're gonna need to go up to the next level to really get it where you feel it and you hear it to that level. This is plenty. Plenty to hear it clearly while riding, plenty to make sure that you can create that atmosphere with the music that you need. And it's been a wonderful amplifier. I don't want to talk this amp down because it has lasted so well. We have almost no issues out of it. And you know how harsh a Harley environment is. It's one of the worst environments for something to last on. And this thing has been phenomenal while being super efficient. So I've got an amp clamp on the amp so we can see how much amperage it draws. I'm going to set that to hold so we'll know what it draw while it was going. So previous amps, I'm going to tell you about amperage. I've been testing this the whole time. We pulled about 26 amps of current at 2 ohm at full power on that SP4.900. We pulled about 24 amps of current on the MAA4.400 from Precision Power. Now we've got to double that number. So what that means is we had about 55 amps of current on the Hertz amp. We're about 50 amps of current on the Precision Power amp. Now the big difference is that new advanced D class from Hertz allowed that amplifier to do a significant amount of extra power, actually over 200 more watts of RMS power at the same amperage draw. That's a huge deal because we only have so much amperage on a bike before we have to go to bigger batteries, multiple batteries, or a bigger stator. All of these are well under that number. We want to say 60 to 70 amps before you have to do some major electrical improvements, and we're in the mid 50 range with the biggest amp we've tested. All right, so I've got our dyno ready. I'm going to start our 4 ohm test. I'm going to hit start dyno, and then I'm going to go to track 9. That's where we've got to be. And I'm going to pause it. Come on now. Track 9. Restart it. Pause it. All right, so let's see what we get at 4 ohm. Now we're expecting anything above 50 watts because CEA ratings say 50 watts by 4 ohm, and the on the box specs is 60 watts at less than 1% distortion. So let's see what we get here. Start dyno and play. All right, we're running on up there. So here we have, now this dyno is hot. I'll tell you, we've been playing with it for a couple hours now. And the hotter the dyno's gotten, a little less power it's given us. So I have actually, the earlier dyno results were all documented, photoed, labeled. I'll share those with you too in the video. We'll throw them up here at the end to show you what the cool results were. Because this is probably the worst this amp's gonna look on a dyno with all the heat we've made. But it's 55 watts on the right side, 57 watts on the left side. That's RMS power at 14.13 volts. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna restart track 9, pause it. We're gonna now change up to our 2 ohm test and see what we get there. So start dyno and play. Now you're hearing the fans run trying to cool the dyno back down because it's been getting a little warm. All right, not too bad there. We'll let it finish its test before I give you the results. All right, so our test is over. 83 watts RMS at 2 ohm, 79 at 2 ohm on the right channel. So between 80 to 83 watts, the box specs say 75, so it actually outperformed at 2 ohm over what it said. Now I'm going RCA in, normally we go high level in, which gives us a little bit more. I would expect another 4 or 5 watts high level input. So this is a very, very clean amp. It's why it's been our go-to. Way, way less than 1/10 of 1% distortion, much less 1% distortion. Stays super cool, and our max amperage draw wasn't too bad. Even clipping the amp, we're about 20 amps of current. So it's not as efficient as that new advanced D class. That's one big improvement on that new style amp. But it is giving us very reliable power, and we're fixing to in the next video. So you got to subscribe, you got to watch the next video. We're going to show you what it does on a set of super efficient Hertz speakers in comparison to the other 2 amps. So I'm going to just quote over 2 ohm specs real quick. Hertz did on the HMP4D, we're going to say 79 and 83. I'm going to average those out to 81 watts. So 81 watts RMS at 2 ohm. We jumped to the Precision Power MAA4.400. We got about 180 watts at 2 ohm per channel on that amplifier. We go a step further to the new SP4.900 from Hertz. We got over 280 watts, an additional 100 watts per channel over the Precision Power between those 2 amps. So going from 80 watts to 280 watts, I expect to see a pretty big difference in decibels on our meter, and in the next video I'll show you what that difference is. But I still think it's been an excellent amplifier that's had it where people can hear their system great. But what we're seeing out of more power, we get more overall volume, we get more mid-bass, you get more of that like you feel the music at a concert instead of just having something loud enough to hear. So kind of wrap up this amp dyno video, I've showed you a good, better, best scenario. I think if budget allows for you to do an upgrade, a lot of people have, you know, they don't want to put thousands and thousands into their bike. The HMP4D has been a rock solid amp that is loud enough for a lot of people, and it sounds really good. It is going to give us great results. Next step up would be the Precision Power Amp. It's not that much more, normally under $200 difference, actually about a $130 to $170 difference to go from the HMP4D to the MAA4.400. Significant wattage improvement. I mean, we're gaining roughly 100 watts at 2 ohm per channel, so that's a lot of power. If we moved up next to our best option, I think, which is our Hertz SP4.900, that amplifier is going to cost you an additional $300 over the MAA4.400. But it's also going to give you almost double the power. So watch the next video. I'll show you what that money equates to in decibels out of your speakers and how that wattage also equates to that. And we'll try to show you, is it worth the extra money? Should you upgrade to the bigger amp? I've been super impressed out of that Precision Power Amp at that mid price, but I'll let you see the results and we'll see where your budget allows. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been informative. I know there's a lot of big words and technical terms that I'm used to that you may not be. So if there's something you didn't understand, please comment below. I'll happily try to explain it and let you know what we were saying and what we meant using this dyno. Also, any other comments you have there, another video idea you have, maybe another amp you want us to test, shoot a comment below, let me know what it is. We'll be happy to try to set that up and do that in the future. You can also call us 1-844-30-AUDIO if you want a quote on a system, if you want us to send you an invoice, if you need help directing you to places on our website, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you, talk about your system, and do something just very specific for you. Remember, all 3 amps we tested are available in complete plug-and-play configurations, all amp gains preset, filters set for the system we ship you, so you don't have to know how to wire it, you don't have to know how to set it, you don't have to have these expensive tools, you just have to be mechanically inclined enough to install it. And we've got great videos, if you follow our channel, you know, step-by-step videos on how to do that. Last but not least, volunteeraudio.com. You can go there. We got a motorcycle section. It's easy to navigate. If you have a hard time with it, give us a call and let me know. But thank you so much for watching. I hope this was informative. I hope it answered some questions you may have had. You're going to have more questions. Watch the next video before you just throw them out there and say, how loud is that new amp? Well, we're going to let you know in the next video. So definitely watch it. Like this video, comment below, subscribe to the channel, and tell your friends about all the new knowledge you've learned. Thank you so much for watching, and God bless.